right. You're watching the world's only weekly lacrosse program, Lacrosse Inside the Game, with Gary Mark and Ron Messer.
Welcome back to This Week in Lacrosse. Gary Mark along with Ron Messer. And Ron, those pictures just keep getting better and better.
Yeah, you know, Powers Bible Lacrosse is probably the biggest historical compendium of lacrosse knowledge and pictures in the world. So check it out at poweredbiblelacrosse.com. That's our buddy the Whomper.
Compendium.
Yes.
So, getting right into last week's games, and touched on it last week, 75% clip, home teams winning. There was one game postponed, as you had mentioned last week, because of the snow in the Eastern Seaboard. 4 of the 6 games that were played, won by the home team again. We're going to start off, though, one of the visiting teams that won, Orlando, went into Colorado and beat the Mammoth 12-5.
Yeah, well, I think the Titans are for real. It's too bad they're playing in a non-lacrosse, traditional non-lacrosse area. Otherwise, I think they'd be drawing a big crowd like Colorado does. And all you people down in Florida, all the snowbirds that are down there, if you watch this, go on out and watch the Titans. Great product.
Yeah, and you would think, actually, I mean, there's a lot of Canadians down there, especially at this time of year. Mm-hmm. You would think that team down there would be getting a little bit more support. The Battle of Alberta, similar to 2 weeks ago, the home team comes out on top here. Calgary beats 13-8.
Yeah, well, after being the champs from last year, Calgary's kind of slid a little bit in the early part of the season. This was a must-win for them, especially against their provincial rival. I think if they'd have lost that one, they would have lost a few seats. Fans in the seats the same way that I think everybody across the NLL has this year for different varying reasons, but in that case it would have been you lost to those guys, so good for you Roughnecks.
Yeah, and I mean I wish I could go out and see one of those games. I think that would be an absolutely phenomenal game to see in either center. Edmonton coming to Toronto this Friday night. We'll touch on the next one there. Minnesota goes into Washington again, home team. Washington, one of the teams we talked about all along so far this year. A little bit closer than I thought it might have been, but Washington's out on top 12-9.
Well, Minnesota's nothing to sneeze at. You know, they've been strong in a losing kind of way most of the season. They got a great fan base as well, but Washington, what more can you say about those guys? And there's some pictures on the NLL rumors board of the stands in Everett, Washington, and man, oh man, how can you play a pro sport in front of 3,700 people? I'm sorry. Come on, Washington, get out. You got the top. You get the most. Well, I'm not gonna say the top team because I'll get a punch in the ear when I go to the Air Canada Center on Friday night. But you got the most winning team, the perfect record in the NLL, and you're not going out to see these guys. The Super Bowl's over. Football's over. Go on out and watch lacrosse. Come on.
We'll touch on that a little bit. Remind me if I forget about that. But down to the Saturday night games, Toronto goes into Buffalo. Big rivalry here, and the Rock go 2-0 on the weekend, looking very, very good. Going into Buffalo, winning 14-10.
I watched it on NLL.com. It was a nasty affair. A lot of chippiness back and forth. Both teams. Well, in Petkov's goal, it was disallowed. He was tossed out of the game for attempting to injure the goalie. A little bit of theatrics on behalf of Montour. But then for Kilgore to send out a guy right at the end of the game to run Chugger Dietrich, I thought it was pretty cheesy. And we don't need that kind of stuff in front of the kids. You know, it was a rough game, a really, really rough game.
But I'll tell you, if you want to talk about two teams that play like their coaches, Troy Cordingley and Darius Kilgore, boy, oh boy.
Yep, it was interesting to say the least. Great crowd in Buffalo once again. Yeah. And thanks a lot to Swenny for giving a shout out to Colin Doyle and his 1000th point just a few minutes into the game. A classy move, thanks a lot. But you know I do the same for somebody on your team too. So.
And congratulations to Colin on achieving that. I mean, that's not something that happens every day in the National Lacrosse League. And I mean, I've seen him now because he's obviously back in Toronto. I've seen him at every home game this year. He doesn't look like he's slowing down at all.
Not at all.
You know, he's gonna add quite a few more to that before he's done for sure.
Yeah.
The one game postponed, Orlando, Philadelphia. I'm not sure. Have you heard anything about when that's being replayed? Or
sometime in the next few weeks, I believe. I think I saw March somewhere. Is going to be. I think it might be either a bye week from one of those two teams, or when Philadelphia is in close proximity to Orlando. I don't know, whatever it is, but they had some kind of a reason on the NLL site. So
okay, and Rochester goes into Boston, the final game of the weekend. Boston at home again, winning 14-8 over Rochester. I actually picked Rochester in that game. The Blazers proved me wrong again and looked very strong doing it.
Yeah, well, my reason behind picking Boston in that one is that Boston plays like a team. Rochester plays like a bunch of stars. Sorry, guys. Park your egos at the bench and get out there and play as a team, because I think that's where their downfall is.
Yeah. So that was it for the week games. One of the things I wanted to touch on, though, I mentioned earlier, are we getting to the point, and you and I have had this conversation off air a number of times, so it appears as though all these teams are playing in the facility that is used by the NHL team, or a very high profile arena. With the exception of Colorado, obviously, are the days of 18,000 fans, Colorado and Buffalo, are the days of 18,000 fans at a game past us? Everett, Washington is a great example. I mean, here's the Stealth right near the top of the league in standings, putting a great product on the floor and 3,600 people out. I'm not so sure that it's bad promotion or no promotion by the Stealth. Is it maybe the fact that this game just can't generate 18,000 fans? And do we need to start looking at a smaller facility to hopefully fill it up?
In some of the bigger metropolitan areas, when you think about it, the sports dollar is stretched and unbelievable. You've got football, baseball, basketball, lacrosse, whatever. And people have only got so much money, and okay, the tight economic times. You're going to go in downtown Toronto with your spouse or one other member of your family to an entertainment venue. If you can get away from it with less than $100 outlay for the night, well then come on and see me and tell me where to go, because that is about a $100 bill is what $50 bought like 7 or 8 years ago. In the smaller markets, it's because they're non-traditional, and it's a hard sell, because in the States they don't know enough about lacrosse. It's up to the National Lacrosse League to do something here, but then again it comes back to money. You need more aggressive owners like Jamie Dowick in Toronto, and the guy at Buffalo that runs a good show, since they're not a part of the Sabres anymore.
Golisano?
Yes, yeah. Him, and I understand the guy in Philly is a real hands-on owner as well. They have to do that. They put the fans first. Smaller venues, maybe 10,000 seat arenas are what this is going to eventually, if it's going to survive. Mm-hmm. Because I don't see this thing surviving many more years unless they make some type of an effort to do that.
Well, and that's where I'm kind of going with this. Is it something? I mean, we either need to ensure that we can get 15,000, 17,000 people into an arena, and if you can't, well, then cut some of your costs, because I'm sure in Toronto's case, here's an example, I'm sure the ACC costs a heck of a lot more than maybe the Ricoh Coliseum would to rent out for the season. Obviously, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. If you do that, you can only max out at whatever the capacity is of Ricoh. But at the same time, I mean, owners like Jamie Dowick, absolutely forward thinking. How long does he go with all the efforts that he's doing, though, and still see the crowds that he's seeing? And this is across the league, as I said, with the exception of Colorado and Buffalo. How long do these owners do this before they say, you know what, this just isn't worth it anymore?
Yep, and it could become like we see in the OLA and the WLA here in Canada, that your regular season games, you may have a 40 or 50% capacity, and all of a sudden, whoa, look at the playoffs. We've got, instead of 300, we've got 790. Yeah. And the team operators are going, woohoo, look at this. It could be like that. Yeah. It could be the regular season plods along with a minimal sized crowd. And that makes it more important for the teams to get into the playoffs. And it looks as though the Rock, even with their early season success, unless they have a total collapse, we'll see a playoff game in Toronto for the first time in a few years. And I expect that to be a big crowd. Yeah.
Fans follow a winner, that's for sure.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the first part of this week's show. We'll be back right after this, and we'll go through our fearless picks for the coming week.